We see an opportunity to do what's right, to change business as usual, to become business as it should be, where people don't just live and work, they thrive. To do that, Colliers is committing to elevate the way we do business, to elevate the built environment. We will minimize environmental impacts in our own operations and through the services we provide our clients. We will increase diversity and inclusion in Colliers and across our procurement practices to create an atmosphere welcoming of diverse ideas and perspectives. We will promote health and well-being in our operations and through our client services to help improve lives. Together, we will elevate the built environment and build better for our collective future. For ourselves, for our clients, for our communities, for the world.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Colliers Q1 2023 Philippine Property Market Briefing. We are delighted to have you in the newly completed and very impressive Makati Commerce Tower, our official partner and venue for this event. I am your host and moderator, Maricris Sarino Hoson, Director of Office Services, Head of Landlord Representation. How time flies, a lot has happened since our last briefing, but all very positive, and we hope it will continue throughout the rest of the year. Speaking of positive, I'm very happy to have a change of venue this time around as we formally introduce to you Makati's latest icon, Makati Commerce Tower. I can't think of a more fitting location as we bring you more encouraging news today. But before we continue, let us first acknowledge our loyal and ever supportive partners who made this event possible. EQT Exeter, Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, Organization of Socialized Housing Developers of the Philippines, Subdivision and Housing Developers Association, Australian and New Zealand Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, Philippine Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, ABS-CBN News Channel, Inquirer Property, PhilippineStar.com, BusinessWorld, Manila Times, BusinessMirror, Malaya Business Insight. I'm pleased to share that we have more than 1,000 attendees in Zoom, so please do take part in the discussion later by sending in your questions through the Q&A chat box. We also just released our Q1 2023 Philippine Property Market Reports covering the office, residential and retail sectors. You may download copies of these reports via the QR code provided in your respective tables and the links that our team will be sending through the Zoom chat box. So with that, let's begin our briefing. These are indeed exciting times for the Philippine real estate sector. In our last market briefing, we reported the volume of office transactions continued to improve, with provincial locations capturing a significant part of these transactions. We have also seen an influx of healthcare BPOs in the countries, while flexible workspaces seeing drastic decrease in vacancy. For the residential sector, we have noted decline in vacancy in the condo market, while prices and rents have started their gradual recovery. Last year's take-up in the pre-selling market was also a significant improvement from 2021, with the upscale and luxury condo segments leading the charge. Finally, the retail sector continues to be a bright spot. Filipinos' favorite pastime, malling, is fashionable once again, and we have seen improving take-up and declining vacancies in many Metro Manila's biggest malls. Rents have also started to gradually recover as well-known local and foreign brands started opening newer, bigger, and some cases really fabulous shops. So now that we're on full recovery mode, is the rest of 2023 going to be smooth sailing? Will diplomatic tensions in APAC affect us in any way, or is the worst finally behind us? Let's get down to business and try to answer these. Thank you, Joey. I see we have a full pack here. I think this is the end of the pandemic. We're all here with no mask, and this shows you how it really has impacted real estate, office, residential, and retail, really getting back to pre-pandemic levels. And because of the build, we can really see opportunities, not only in Metro Manila provincial as well, and not only, Metro Manila, Calaba. We're also seeing in the north, Bulacan, Pampanga. So really a lot of opportunities, and it's really important to take note how consumers have really changed, their way of purchasing, more conscious consumption, really thinking, the green, sustainable features and really the social impact it has before making the purchase. So I think we have a lot of questions via Zoom. I am going to call in Kevin also on stage. Joey's beside me.
You call them first, Chris.
Yes.
Too excited.
Yes. Would also like to call in our Managing Director, Richard Ramundo, Senior Director for Office Services, Tenant Representation, Dom Frederick Andaya, Senior Director of Advisory Services, Tim Teodoro, Director for Capital Markets and Investment Services, Paul Shua, and Senior Director of Valuation Services, Paul Vincent Ramirez. And my colleague Daniel Salapong will also be helping in the Q&A. So Danes will also be going around helping us secure questions from the attendees here face-to-face.
Okay. Ready?
So first question is from Ella Ongsip of FAI. I think, Joey, this is for you. What should be the concerns for property developers this coming months as residential condo sales are picking up already?
Okay, thanks for that quick water break. But I would say that, I discussed those factors already. So you have geopolitical tension. We need to closely observe that, what's happening, the West Philippine Sea between China, Taiwan, and the US, the brewing tension, and will that start to simmer down over the next few months? The Ukraine-Russia crisis, which is still ongoing after more than a year. But also look at prices of construction materials, which reached a 14-year high last year, 2022, and that will likely temper the launches of new projects across Metro Manila. But also, you have to look at what? Inflation, because that will have an impact on your interest rates and mortgage rates. So those factors will likely have an impact on the rebounding residential segment across the Philippines. It's my turn to put you on the spot. No, it's for Dom and Kevin. Don't worry, Chris. I'll ask you later. Do majority of the POGO firms operating before the pandemic, or have they exited the country? Have majority of the POGO companies operating before the pandemic exited the country already? So another question is, which industries, sectors will fill the vacancies left by the POGOs, the void left by these POGO firms? Dom, Kevin?
I'll answer this one. So since the pandemic started, we've seen about above 600,000 square meters of POGO spaces being vacated until now, no?
Any questions from
That constitutes around more than 50% of POGO spaces in the country, mostly in Metro Manila. As for the next question, whether these spaces that were previously vacated by POGOs, whether these are being taken up, unfortunately, not as strong as we'd hope. Only around 25,000 of square meters of old POGO spaces were recovered and are being tenanted again. 25,000 out of 600,000, that's just about 5% of that number. So, and then the 25,000 are also POGOs that took the space. So there's not yet a clear replacement industry that are taking up these spaces. There is a market for fitted spaces that are previously tenanted, usually by other BPOs. And we see these are the ones that are being patronized first in the CBDs, in Ortigas, in BGC especially. So those are the first ones to go. But the ones in areas like Bay Area and Alabang, unfortunately, are still vacant.
I think Joey can add on. Like here in Buendia, so Tech Zone's formerly vacated POGO was taken up by Alorica. We've also seen some POGO vacated spaces taken up by universities. So that's another opportunity we have that's been taking up POGO vacated spaces. Danes, you have questions in that side?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, we have a question from the audience. Sir, go ahead.
Well, may I introduce myself? I'm Oscar Gumabay from RCVT and a consultant of the operational team of the bank. That is a very promising, actually, on the property market, and the numbers look good. And we often say the numbers don't lie. Perhaps we want to include the need for a repository of sales transaction as a tool to benchmark property valuation, because the biggest challenge is how conclusive are values of a property in the absence of a real estate market database system. Other countries have that already. What we have in the valuation process is that we benchmark our opinion not on sales transactions, because we could hardly find what is being done, and this is a public knowledge. They benchmark it on the BIR zonal value. We want to know your position on this. Thank you.
I'm nominating Paul for
Paul R.
that
Hello,
question.
yeah. So we've been, actually, that's one of our concerns as well as a practicing valuer in the Philippines. But I think what will really unlock this information is when the government has a unified valuation system. So there are different value system in the Philippines. There's the BIR zonal value. There's the schedule of market value. There is the private appraisals value as well. And the issue is whether we can access maybe the transacted data that has been recorded by the Registry of Deeds. But as we know, especially in the provinces, there's a lot of cases wherein these numbers, the transactions recorded, are not recorded faithfully. So these are challenges that needs to be addressed as well. But I think for us to have a very clear understanding of what's really happening as far as transaction is concerned, I think it's the government's move. The database that's been sitting with the Registry of Deeds and the Assessor's Office should be unlocked so that everybody can access it and everybody will have a clear understanding of what's going on in the property market.
Thanks,
Sir Paul, I think he'll just have a follow-up question.
Just a short follow-up. I asked this question because no less than former Prime Minister Cesar Virata asked me during one of our ex-column, how conclusive is our valuation in the absence of the real estate market database system. You mentioned about Registry of Deeds and Assessor. This is not the function of the two offices. Actually, it is the function of the BIR. The sales transactions submitted to the BIR are actually the lead infos that we need. For your info and for the information of the public, I already sent my feasibility study to support the Valuation Reform Act of the government. I sent it already to the Department of Finance and lately to the Senate for deliberation. I hope we can achieve that because that is very important to support this growing market industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey.
This is for Tim. Which cities within and outside Metro Manila, this being included, have great potential in terms of real estate development?
Well, outside Metro Manila, the provinces near rest, which is Cavite and Laguna and Bulacan, have the opportunity to capture, of course, the expansion from the Metro Manila area. Batangas is also doing well. I mean, Vismin, we've seen Bacolod has also a lot of potential. There's money there. There's a lot of commercial activity. Dumaguete is also interesting. There's also a big talent pool there, but we haven't really seen any major developers yet in that area.
Sorry, Tim, I'm biased, but can we add Pampanga to that list?
Yes.
This question is for Dom. Can you share stats on PEZA to BOI transfer of office tenants? Kevin?
Well, based on the news, about close to 1,000 firms have made the paper transfer from for BOI. We don't have the square footage of those firms. So yeah, that's it actually. 1,000 firms.
Joey, I have a question here from
Hello. Hello. Thank you, Joey, for the presentation. So I'm particularly interested in the condo units report. So there was no mention in the presentation about the effect of the Metro Manila subway and the Makati subway. So how much increase do we see on properties nearby? For example, I live in Makati, so there will be a Makati subway. And I also have a property in McKinley West, so there will be another one. So how much would that increase on those property impact on the TCP? And I have another question too after that one. So yeah, anyone can answer.
Well, I'm nominating Paul again.
Okay. So as we know, so Metro Manila subway, so these are transit-oriented development. But yeah, in other countries, it might work as far as being more attractive to condo occupiers. But you have to consider also that in the Philippines, those who can afford condos have cars and prefer to use cars. So once there is a shift, I think there will be a more clear understanding of how it will affect condo prices. But property prices as a whole, all infrastructure project will increase, will have a considerable increase in property values. But the challenge is condos. Will condos really be affected by this? Given that, what's the price point of condos? 10 million, 5 to 10 million. So those who can afford 5 to 10 million usually opt to take their own car. They don't really use public transport or MRTs or LRTs or subway. Maybe there'll come a time that there will be, but right now we don't see that yet. Hopefully it will.
So no projected price increase that you use. But there will definitely be, right?
For land, yes, there is. Aside from condo, there are other activities. There's foot traffic, there's retail, there's hotel, there's other activities. So obviously there is. So there's been a study with ADB regarding the effect of of the MRT to the land values, and they have shown based on their study that there is increase. It will increase. I'm not sure of the exact number, but they have shown increase in considerable increase within the 1 kilometer radius within the MRT line.
Okay, I have a second question. So I'm just curious because in the Philippines, when Pogo came, the prices increased on the condo prices, and in other countries to protect locals, they have the empty home tax, such as in Vancouver. So do we have the similar here in the Philippines, protect Filipino buyers than those investors getting a lot of units but just empty?
As of now, there are no similar laws like that here in the Philippines. So there's nothing that really protects the local buyers, or prioritizes the local buyers from the foreign, except of course the 60% 60% Filipino, 40% foreign ownership restriction.
Thank you. Colliers, in fact, released a study on the subway's impact on residential prices. If you haven't read that or downloaded, we can send it to you. This question is for Paul Chu. Do you see demand increasing for commercial lots outside Metro Manila, specifically in Laguna?
Sorry, an increase or
Do you see demand increasing for commercial lots outside Metro Manila, specifically in Laguna?
I think the demand is still there. Laguna has always been a hotspot for new developments, including residential, industrial, and so on and so forth. So in those developments, obviously a commercial component is important. But looking at demand for future commercial lots, if you look at the commercial lots available at the moment in mixed-use developments, particularly in Laguna, they're catering to mid-rise to high-rise developments in the future. So what types of developments can fit that? It's offices. So if it's offices, it will be the same as it will follow what's happening in Metro Manila. So as long as we have these high vacancies, I guess the demand for those types of development will not increase as much as we want. But short term, maybe retail would work in those areas.
Joey, we have a question from our Zoom attendee, from Warren de Guzman of ABS-CBN News. NEDA is studying the impact of construction material inflation on its infra plans. DBM Secretary Pangandaman says it looks substantial. How is it affecting price and development? Paul C. or Tim?
Well, we've already seen developments increase their prices. Even if it's previously launched, in some areas we've seen them increase by as much as 20% to really compensate for the increase in construction costs. However, they do try to mitigate the effect of this to the buyers by really offering flexible payment terms, extending the payment terms. So they're trying to make do with the current situation by doing those strategies.
Thanks, Tim. This one's for Richard, or Dom, and Kevin can also pitch in. What are the potential real estate industry disruptions with the emergence of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, the buzz phrase?
We were discussing this in the Inquirer forum yesterday, and I think one of the, at least for now, the what came up was what the AI still can't do is that human touch. So we were discussing this. Okay, you can, if you want a thesis paper done, you can have that in Chat GPT. There's probably images that you can put up if you want some architectural renderings done. You can do that. But to make it apt for the human users, that is the thing that is still missing in AI for real estate right now. You know, probably 5 to 10 years from now, who knows, right? But for now, it's that human component that is still missing. I think similar for, let's say, the BPOs, that has been, what do you think, Dom, is there an imminent threat for the BPO market?
Hello. Yes, definitely. That's why the IBPAP right now is focused, or even before, is focused on upskilling our workers. That's where we're headed. We cannot deny that. We're moving to automation. We're moving to AI. It's happening. So I think the advice that I can give is just don't be complacent. Let's continue to innovate. Look at, improvements, process improvements, etc. continuously, because you don't want to wake up one day wherein your industry is suddenly disrupted. It will happen. It will happen.
I think, sorry, just a bit. AI will probably disrupt the freelancing industry first before the formal BPO solution. So because the BPOs are actively upskilling and reskilling their people. So I would say that this industry was more protected than the gig economy and freelancing industry.
Thanks, Kevin. We have a question from Nestor.
Hi, good afternoon. My question is related to our current COVID situation. So I understand that the number of COVID cases are currently on rising, right? So on the rise. So given that there is a possibility that we would revert back to alert level 2 or 3 here in Metro Manila and in other provinces in the future, what are the lessons that we learned during the past pandemic that would help us property investors mitigate the risk of loss in investment? Thank you.
Who wants to go first, Richard?
I think what we need to look at this point, since a lot of people have been vaccinated, is the severity of the cases right now. I think that's the big difference, is the severity. So people who get COVID these days, get back quickly as compared to, let's say, in the 2020, 2021. I'm sure a lot of people here I've gotten COVID twice. Once in 2021, wherein I got hospitalized for 5 days. And then the second one was just last year, wherein I stayed at home 5 days. I was good, right? The government has said that for now, we're not imposing mask mandates yet. And if you look at other countries, even, of course, Europe and the US, they will not go back to that because they want to protect the economy. And I think that's where most economies are heading towards. China, for instance, is heading towards that as well, right? So I think it's more of really getting more booster shots in the future, just like flu shots annually. Now, in terms of what lessons learned, make sure that you invest in the right property in the right location, because if there's something that we learned from this pandemic, is those which are in good developments made by good developers in great locations has withstood in terms of value, and that will also continue to keep its value.
Thanks, Richard. Paul Chua, your favorite. Why do you think data centers in the Philippines are not thriving the same way they do in other countries in APAC?
I wouldn't say it's not thriving. No. Just recently, Digital Edge opened up their data center in Binyan, and then I think Kevin's forwarded me an image of Digital Halo groundbreaking in Valley Golf, right?
Valley Golf.
So there are data centers coming in. But if you compare ourselves to the likes of Malaysia, who's the premier destination right now for data centers, I mean, power, it's very expensive here. And most new data centers would want to locate closer to the capital or the main CBDs. Unfortunately, prices of land is very high. So if you look at those that are opening now, they're on the fringes of Metro Manila. And I think once we see these data centers open up in the next couple of years, then we might be able to see more data centers coming into the Philippines.
Thanks, Paul. Joey, we have a question here from Ed.
Hello, good afternoon. Ed Palo Salting from the Manila Times. I've just received news that a consortium has been formed already for the rehabilitation of NAIA. So how will this affect our property moving forward, sir? And also how can I say this? I guess that is my main question, sir.
Paul or Tim? Can you repeat the question, Ed?
Because just right now, a consortium has been formed already to develop the NAIA International Airport already, sir. And the proposal has been passed already. So how will this affect property moving forward?
Well, I think it's about time, right? That's the thing that I could say about that, because once that you've seen a lot of the peripheral developments around it have already increased in value. So you've seen huge mixed-use residential developments already close to the airport. You've seen a lot of the residual industrial being transformed already. You're already seeing that in that area. Good example, Newport, right? Look at how that the land values and capital values in Newport have gone up since, and that's just because you're at the periphery of the airport. So you could just imagine the other airports that could be rehabilitated and could see that lift in value. And hopefully what they do is, in their planning, is to incorporate what's happening around it, not just in isolation, because that's very important.
Thanks, Richard. This is for Tim. What's the status of developments in the north? So you have Pampanga, Bulacan, Tarlac, Bataan for horizontal developments.
Bulacan, well, the supply is kind of low, so there's a lot of opportunity there. In Pampanga, we've already seen that market evolve to include higher segments. As we see, we've already seen them launch mga luxury condominiums or upscale to luxury condominiums. In Tarlac, it's still mostly economic, affordable segments that we've seen there. Bataan also, though there are some mid-income developments. So in terms of take-up, they're generally more active. Pampanga's good, Bulacan is good. Tarlac is also good for certain segments.
James, you have a question at the back?
Yes, hi. We have a question from Mr. Sunny Dukay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am from the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association. Well, foremost, thank you, Colliers, for this informative forum. And we welcome the good news and the positive prospects in the housing industry. This information is very much important for all practitioners in the sector. My question is, where is the government and what is the role of the government with respect to these positive aspects in the housing sector? In particular, the government's program on 4PH, or building 1 million houses every year. Are there accomplishments or have they been captured in this report? And what could be the future impact to the housing sector with respect to this great plan of the government? Thank you.
I'm compelled to nominate them.
Well, definitely it will help, decrease the housing backlog. I believe some developers or contractors have already entered into partnerships with the government for the rollout of for these developments. So specific launches I'm not yet that familiar with.
Yeah, I want to add to that because I'm from the province and I know for sure that this project has been rolled out down to the municipal level. So properties have been identified by various LGUs already. And then some of them are working with private developers to supply the allotted or allocated number of housing units required per location. So it's a nationwide rollout and it has happened. So I'm not just sure what other accomplishments have been accomplished as of now, but I think even Quezon City, that's what I heard, has identified plots of lands already for this particular project, and there's already a nominated developer to do the housing units.
Yes, thanks, Tim and Dom. This is
Joey, we have a phone-in question from our Zoom participant. This is for Paul C. Can you please give a short overview of what happened this first quarter for the industrial sector?
How short? No,
3 sentences.
no, I think similar to what happened last year, the first quarter of the year for industrial is driven mainly by logistics. So we're seeing take-ups by logistics firm, warehouses, particularly in the region still. But we are seeing new demand coming in the north, potentially Bulacan, Pampanga area for logistics. We haven't seen the manufacturing influx that we wanted to see, but hopefully towards the end of the year or the next couple of years, we'll see more, especially the pledges that we're hoping to see soon.
Especially those investment pledges that
Joey, this question is for you.
Japan, yes.
Somebody's asking this question coming from a Zoom participant from John Patrick Bartolome. Do we see a marginal pricing impact this year in the office space and residential units in Pampanga and Bulacan in the perspective of the North-South commuter railway, Clark?
Well, I would say that it's not just the North-South commuter railway that will have an impact, because if you focus, for example, on Pampanga, my favorite province, you have Skyway 3 that has really elevated prices there. You have Rockwell launching projects at 220,000 pesos per square meter, and its first tower, in fact, almost 90% sold, and then the other tower, Bencab, at about 30-40% sold, also at about the same price, 220,000 pesos per square meter. Also complementing that, if you move down south, you have Bulacan. So it will also see substantial increase in price, especially with the projected completion of the new Manila International Airport. In fact, you have the likes of Mega World substantially, significantly land banking in the area and launching its North Wind project, which it is positioning as the BGC of the North. And also prices per square meter of condo in the North Wind community at about 220,000 pesos per square. Again, these are prices previously you'd only seen Metro Manila, but have now been proliferating even in Pampanga and Bulacan. So a lot of promise for these provinces because of these infra projects: North-South Commuter Railway, New Manila International Airport, expansion of Clark Airport, and even the North-South Commuter Railway project. So again, a lot of these projects will definitely have a positive impact on property prices in Pampanga and Bulacan. Do you have other questions, Chris?
Joey, there's a question for you from Oscar.
Hi, Joey. Joey, I would like to ask your opinion on this. Is there a need to amend the FAR on CBD properties to compensate the value of the land, which has gone already so high?
I think I'm gonna nominate Tim and the Paul R for that question. Valuation and advisory services. Tim?
FAR.
FAR.
So primarily FAR. So FAR controls the density. So what actually it controls is the number of people in a community. So it's very hard for government, for the local government, to just say, we're going to increase the FAR because land values are high, because the amount of people that will use the CBD will also increase. But the infrastructure in place to support these people moving around may not be sufficient to cater to this. So there should be a careful study for the government to just increase the FAR. So because it was designed in such a way that the infrastructure can support however number of people are there based on the FAR restriction.
Tim, wanna add something? Good. Okay, we are down to our last
question.
We're saving the best for last for Paul Chua. Which areas and property sectors will potentially provide the best return on investment in the next 2 years?
2 years?
Yes.
Such a short horizon, no? It's hard for real estate to have a holding period of 2 years. If, for example, we say 5 years, maybe we can look at residential again. We've seen increases in CBDs within a short term of 5 years that it doubled the value of their units. Longer than that, then maybe the offices come into play. But 2 years is so short for residential play. Technically, it's a very illiquid investment. So if 2 years, maybe REIT, Richard? I don't know. Yeah, maybe REIT is the way if you have a shorter term investment horizon.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you to our Colliers experts, Joy Roy Bondo, Kevin Han, Tim Teodoro, Paul Shua, Paul Vincent Ramirez, Dom Frederick Adaya, and Richard Ramundo for always shedding light on the current landscape of the real estate sector and providing us with useful insights and recommendations as we face very promising months ahead. We would like to once again to thank our event partners, Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, Organization of Socialized Housing Developers of the Philippines, Subdivision and Housing Developers Association, Australian and New Zealand Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, Philippine Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, ABS-CBN News Channel, Inquirer Property, Philstar.com, BusinessWorld, Manila Times, BusinessMirror, Malaya Business Insight, and last but definitely not the least, the Makati Commerce Tower. And to officially close our program, let's hear our final remarks from our Managing Director, Mr. Richard Ramundo.
Thank you, Chris. I'd like to thank everyone for coming over. I think the main theme that we have this for this quarter is we're very positive about property. Yes, there are headwinds, but for office, you saw that there's at least stability now with the rents. In terms of take-up, there is take-up. In terms for residential, we're seeing developers starting to launch new projects. And then for retail, we're back to pre-pandemic footfall. So that's very good. I'd like to thank Makati Commerce Tower for hosting us this afternoon. It's a beautiful building. It's a building that we are proud to manage. So we have Jet Ilaga here who heads our property management team. So his team is managing this beautiful building. And we also have Marie Chris who is exclusively leasing this building. So I think there are some property tours for those who have signed up. I hope you enjoy this building. It's a beautiful building. And I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Richard. So if any of you guys want to join our building tour, it will start at right after this briefing. We will see you at the registration area.
Definitely joining that tour.
So thank you, Richard. Thank you, Joey. And thank you to everyone who joined us today at the beautiful Makati Commerce Tower. And to more than 1,000 attendees who participated in Zoom, you're welcome to reach out to our team if you have further questions. If you would like to receive more information on Colliers office, residential, retail sector, if you'd like to stay updated on the latest news and insights on Philippine property sector, please visit our website, Colliers.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you'd like to hear more from Joey, has a regular column at the Philippine Daily Inquirer called Colliers Review. It comes out every Saturday at the newspaper's property section. Colliers has a regular column at the BusinessWorld called Colliers Insights and the Philippine Star called Colliers Outlook. So please make sure to get copies of these newspapers as well. Once again, on behalf of Colliers, thank you for joining us today. I hope we will all have a great second quarter and have a fun and relaxing summer. We look forward to seeing you again in our next briefing in July. Goodbye, everyone. Take care. And please do get some food, refreshments. And yeah, we're looking forward to talking to everyone face to face.
Yeah, just tease your appetite. It's now time to grab food. Thanks, Chris. Great
Thank you, Joey. Thank you, everyone.
The Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, or DHSUD, is the primary government entity responsible for the management of housing, human settlement, and urban development. It was created on February 14, 2019 by virtue of Republic Act 11201. The department is a sole and main planning and policymaking, regulatory, program coordination, and performance monitoring entity for all housing, human settlement, and urban development concerns, primarily focusing on the access to and the affordability of basic human needs. RA 11201 consolidated the functions of the Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board and the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council to become DHSUD, except for adjudication, which is now handled by its attached agency, the Human Settlements Adjudication Commission. The DHSUD also exercises oversight functions on its attached agencies or key shelter agencies, namely the National Housing Authority, which acts as the country's primary shelter production arm, the Home Development Mutual Fund or Pag-ibig Fund, which focuses on National Savings Program and affordable shelter financing for Filipino workers. The Social Housing Finance Corporation, which undertakes social housing programs catering to the formal and informal settlers belonging to the low-income bracket, and the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, which ensures the availability of affordable housing loans to finance home buyers through secondary market for home mortgages. It has 3 bureaus that primarily perform policy development, regulatory functions, and advisory roles. The Environmental, Land Use and Urban Planning and Development Bureau, which performs human settlements planning-related functions, including formulation of planning guidelines, national urban development policies and programs, technical assistance to relevant stakeholders, and land use monitoring. The Housing and Real Estate Development Regulation Bureau, which regulates the development of subdivision and condominium and other real estate projects, including the practice of real estate service by brokers and salespersons, through the formulation, promulgation, and imposition of administrative fines and penalties pursuant to Presidential Decree 957 and Batas Pambansa 220, and the Homeowners Association and Community Development Bureau that formulates policies and programs to be implemented by the regional offices, monitors proper implementation of the approved policies and programs, and capacitates regional offices in empowering the HOAs within their respective jurisdictions. The department's operations are complemented by 1 technical service, the Public Housing and Human Settlement Service, and 7 support services. It has 16 regional offices strategically located nationwide to cater to the needs in the localities. Guided by dynamism, honesty, service excellence, unity of purpose, and dedication, the DHSUD will move forward toward its vision of adequate and affordable housing, inclusive human settlements, and well-planned communities for every Filipino family.
Presenting the Organization of Socialized and Economic Housing Developers of the Philippines' Shelter Agenda for a New Decade. The Philippine Private Sector Initiative, a new human settlements and urban development agenda. Institutionalize private sector participation in policymaking under the new Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. Improving ease of doing business. Expanding housing finance and sustainable incentives programs for homebuyers. Upholding fair access to land through a genuine national land use policy. Redefining affordable housing. Promoting green building, resilient settlements, and post-pandemic approach in designing spaces. To learn more about the Organization of Socialized and Economic Housing Developers of the Philippines, please visit us at www.oshdp.com or email us at secretariat@oshdp.com.
The housing industry has evolved dramatically in the last few decades. And as we reach a very interesting time in our history, we are being called to evolve even more rapidly. And we here in the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association can help you evolve the way you should. We organize to improve our capabilities. We collaborate to synergize. We expand our network to increase our knowledge. With over 300 members nationwide and 8 regional chapters, we collaborate to improve regulatory and legislative advocacies for housing and urban development. Partnered with a DSHUD, we strive to elevate the industry to better heights, while giving back and paying forward to communities through CSR programs. With competent and dependable leadership, SHEDA capitalizes on the individual strengths of its members and magnifies their visibility through relevant presence in programs and activities pertaining to housing development. Creating a community of professional, capable, and excellent developers who exhibit dynamism, especially in the changing and evolving landscape of the housing industry. It's time to bring your journey as a developer far with Sheda. For details on how to join, you may log in to sheda.ph. Find them on social media. Connect, network, grow with the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association.
Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the voice of Philippine business. Established by a dynamic group of individuals with strong leadership presence and passion for business and economic development. An influential alliance of business leaders providing policy directions to government and ensuring sustained economic development. This is the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. On April 19, 1886, three of the largest Spanish companies in Manila formed the Cámara de Comercio de Filipinas. Following the downfall of the colonial Spanish government, the popularity of La Cámara waned, and a new organization of Filipino and Chinese mestizo businessmen established the Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, CCP, in 1903. Barely half a century after, a group of industrialists founded the Philippine Chamber of Industries, PCI. On July 1, 1978, the two chambers merged, giving birth to the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, PCCI. In September of the same year, PCCI was recognized as the country's single voice of business through Presidential Letter of Instruction 780. After more than a century, the Chamber continues to chart the course of economic development in the country. Lending its voice to the government, PCCI continues to be at the forefront to influence public policies in the areas of agriculture and food security, banking and finance, capital market development, energy and power, water utilities, environment, formal and technical vocational education, infrastructure development, intellectual property and innovation, international trade, local economic development, taxation, SME support services, tourism, and transportation and logistics. Covering business comprehensively to ensure the business expansion and country's future growth and progression through its partnership with the government, local chambers, and other stakeholders. PCCI's programs and services include enhancing business environment, SME development, environmental protection and management, corporate social responsibility, national and countryside development, business services, access to local and international training programs and scholarships, publications, breaking grounds with pioneering minds. PCCI is a dynamic force that offers its members fresh new ideas, new choices, and creative new approaches. From only a handful before the turn of the century, the PCCI family has grown to more than 1,600 direct members, more than 100 industry associations, more than 100 local chambers, and around 35,000 SMEs nationwide. To ensure alignment of its advocacies and activities, the PCCI works closely with government, other business groups, donor organizations, and international agencies, as well as the academe. The PCCI also provides a platform that links local firms with the global business community. PCCI also engages foreign chambers, diplomatic corps, international agencies in search of broader trade and economic cooperation. The Philippine Business Conference and Expo is the most important annual activity of the PCCI and one of the most prestigious events in the country. Local and foreign companies wanting to establish new ventures or seeking new markets find it highly attractive to attend due to the many benefits it offers. Every year, more than 800 stakeholders attend the conference, composed of key government officials, business leaders, diplomatic corps, foreign chambers, multilateral donor agencies, PCCI corporate members, bilateral business councils, local chamber and industry association leaders. With resourcefulness, ingenuity, collective ideas, and strength, the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry remains steadfast in its principles of business growth and development. Pioneering, innovating, and trailblazing. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry will remain as that, one voice of business in the country.
The Wallace Business Forum is a 30-year-old think tank that provides a valuable link between the country's top business leaders and the leaders of government. It helps CEOs to understand the environment within which they must operate through a series of publications and meetings that access the business, political and economic environment and predict where we may go. WBF is considered one of the most authoritative, independent sources of information and assistance in understanding in the Philippines. We tell it like it is.
Sign up for a year and pay less than 71 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/digital to get your free 30 days of the Manila Times Digital Edition.